Egypt's last card on the Nile. The project that will seal Egypt's destiny. While Egypt publicly complains about Ethiopia's Renaissance Dam threatening its water supply, something fascinating is happening in the Western Desert. Cairo is quietly building one of the most ambitious water projects in modern history, a massive scheme to squeeze every last drop from the Nile and turn barren sand into farmland. The contradiction is striking. Egypt says it's losing water, but right now it's racing to use 100% of the Nile, from source to mouth, more intensively than ever before. This is Egypt's final card, and whether it succeeds or fails will determine the country's fate for generations. Welcome to Semonigna Spotlight, where we analyze the Horn of Africa's biggest stories with data, context, and no BS. Subscribe for analysis that goes deeper than the headlines. Egypt has been getting louder lately about its Nile water share. The rhetoric is heating up, accusations are flying, but on the ground, Egypt is doing something far more significant than complaining. It's building infrastructure to extract maximum value from every cubic meter of Nile water it receives. The new Delta project is that infrastructure, and it's huge. Let's break down what's actually happening in the desert west of Cairo. The last chance. You think Egypt's problem is the Gerd Dam? Think again. Egypt's real crisis runs much deeper than disputes with Ethiopia. The country is caught in a demographic and economic trap that gets tighter every year. The numbers are brutal. Egypt went from 60 million people in 1990 to over 105 million today. That's nearly doubling in just 3 decades. And here's the problem. 95% of those 105 million people live on just 5% of Egypt's land, a narrow strip along the Nile and the Delta. Beyond that, desert, endless, unforgiving desert. Egypt is now the world's largest wheat importer. A country that was once self-sufficient now depends entirely on global markets to feed its people. Egypt's external debt stands at over $160 billion. The economy is fragile, inflation is high, and the government is running out of options. Water scarcity is hitting hard too. Egypt receives about 55.5 billion cubic meters of Nile water annually under old agreements, but its actual water needs are already higher. Per capita water availability has dropped below the UN's water scarcity threshold. This is what Egypt is actually facing. Not just a dam upstream, a structural crisis of too many people, too little land, shrinking water per capita, and dangerous food insecurity. And this isn't Egypt's first attempt at a grand solution. In the late 1990s, Egypt launched the Toshka project, an ambitious plan to divert Nile water into the western desert and create a new valley of agricultural land. Billions were spent, canals were dug, but the project largely failed. The land reclaimed was far below targets. The costs spiraled. The vision collapsed. Egypt also built entire new cities in the desert, like the new administrative capital, designed to ease pressure on the Nile Valley. But many of these developments have struggled to attract the populations they were meant to serve. They sit half-empty, monuments to ambition that exceeded reality. So when Egypt announced the new Delta project in 2018, skepticism was understandable. Another mega project? Another desert dream? But this time, something different is happening. The project that will seal Egypt's destiny. The new Delta project is not just about moving water, it's about fundamentally redesigning how Egypt uses the Nile. Here's the scale. Egypt plans to reclaim approximately 9,200 square kilometers of desert and turn it into productive farmland. If completed, this would increase Egypt's total cultivated land by more than 1/3. While exact figures vary, estimates suggest the project costs are in the tens of billions of dollars, involving massive infrastructure, engineering, and ongoing operational expenses. At the heart of this project is a complex water management system, doing something Egypt has never attempted at this scale: recycling agricultural wastewater and moving it across vast desert distances. The Al Hammam Canal is the centerpiece. It runs for approximately 170 kilometers. Its job: collect agricultural drainage water that would normally flow into the Mediterranean Sea and redirect it inland to irrigate new desert farms. Think about what that means. Egypt is capturing water that was previously wasted, drainage from existing farms, treating it, and using it again. That's water recycling on a massive industrial scale. A second system draws water directly from the Nile to supply additional areas, creating a vast irrigation network stretching deep into the western desert, a region that until recently was nothing but sand and rock. Moving water across the desert isn't simple. The system starts near sea level at the Nile Delta, but the desert plateau it needs to reach sits about 100 meters higher. To overcome this elevation change, Egypt built a series of massive pumping stations along the route. These stations lift millions of cubic meters of water in stages as it moves inland. Evaporation is another massive problem. In desert heat, water exposed to sun and air evaporates quickly. To minimize this, large sections of the system run through underground pipes, shielding the water from direct sunlight and reducing losses. Before any of this recycled drainage water can irrigate crops, it must be cleaned. That's where the new Delta Water Treatment Plant comes in. This facility is one of the largest water treatment plants in the world. It can process millions of cubic meters of water daily, turning lower quality agricultural drainage into irrigation-grade water. The goal is brilliant in its simplicity. Use the same water twice. Once for the old farmland along the Nile, then capture the runoff, clean it, and use it again for new farmland in the desert. Satellite images show the project is advancing rapidly. Thousands of square kilometers of desert now show distinctive circular crop fields, evidence of center pivot irrigation systems at work. By 2024, reports suggest several thousand square kilometers had been brought under cultivation. The Egyptian government points to these images as proof the project is working. Fields are growing where there was once only sand. The transformation is visible from space. The project was officially announced in 2018. Major construction happened between 2020 and 2022. Canals, pipelines, pumping stations, treatment facilities. First large-scale cultivation began in 2023 and 2024. Continued expansion is ongoing, with full completion targeted for the late 2020s or early 2030s. If the new Delta project works as planned, the numbers are transformative. Those 9,200 square kilometers of new farmland equal roughly 2.27 million acres. Estimated annual production capacity could reach several million tons of fruits, vegetables, and export crops. Job creation could hit hundreds of thousands in agricultural and processing sectors, but the risks are equally enormous. Here's the issue that doesn't appear in government press releases. Analysts using satellite data have discovered something troubling. Much of the water currently irrigating these new desert farms isn't coming from the canal system. It's coming from underground aquifers. These are ancient water reserves that accumulated over thousands of years. They are not renewable on any human timescale. Once depleted, they're gone. Research shows groundwater depletion in parts of the western desert has accelerated sharply in recent years. If the new farms are running on borrowed groundwater while the canal system isn't yet fully operational, that's not sustainable. If the project stumbles, Egypt will have spent billions building infrastructure that doesn't deliver the promised returns. The demographic and food crises will continue, and the country's options will be even more limited. The contradiction Egypt won't address. Here's the part that needs to be said clearly. Egypt's official position is that Ethiopia's GERD Dam threatens its water security. Egyptian officials regularly warn that reduced Nile flows could be catastrophic. But at the exact same time, Egypt is building infrastructure designed to use 100% of its Nile allocation as intensively as possible, extracting maximum value from every drop through recycling, reuse, and expanded irrigation. The numbers expose the contradiction. The new Delta project aims to irrigate 9,200 square kilometers of new desert farmland. Even with water recycling, that represents massive new water consumption. If Egypt genuinely believed it was facing severe water scarcity from upstream dams, would it be launching the largest agricultural expansion in its modern history? The reality is more complex than the rhetoric. Egypt isn't passively losing water. It's aggressively reorganizing how it uses water to support a population that's still growing and an economy that desperately needs productivity gains. The GERD is a challenge, yes, but Egypt's real crisis is internal. Too many people, too little productive land, too much dependence on food imports, too much debt. The new Delta project is an attempt to buy time, maybe even buy a future, by making the desert bloom. We should wish Egypt success. Genuinely, this has been Semonigna Spotlight.